breaking out of the corporate mindset to start your own business or buy a business, it is terrifying. It is nerve-wracking, but man, it is exhilarating. And once you actually succeed and you're your own boss, it is worth it. Welcome to the Legacy Builders Podcast, where we are redefining generational wealth one story at a time. I'm your host, Mario Gonzalez Jr. And today I want to talk about my story in corporate America, specifically my last 8 years in business to business sales, what I did there, the lessons I learned, and the journey to becoming an entrepreneur. I've talked a little bit about this, but specifically business to business software sales, I think really helped me become the entrepreneur that I am today because I learned so much. So I did about 4.5 years at Dell, got introduced through a friend, and I was hesitant to take on that role because I just know with sales, it can be very short-lived, especially if you're not hitting quota. So that always deterred me. So I ended up taking the chance, and I got put into a queue where I would just answer calls and sell people one-off computer peripherals. I think they call it S&P, software and peripherals. And I didn't like it. I did not like sales. Before that, I had a short stint at Chase as a personal banker, and it was my responsibility to have folks come in when they cash their check and then try and sell them a credit card or a savings account. Okay. I hated that too. So hopping back over to Dell, this didn't feel any different. To me, the difference is that a lot of these folks needed this equipment and gear. So it was my responsibility to help them find what solution was going to work best for their particular environment or whatever project that we're working on. So that part I did like. It's just answering the phone over and over and over. It just became a little tiring. And then you start layering quotas on top of that. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But I saw a lot of the money that some of my peers were making. And I was like, okay, there's probably something to this. So I started getting better at my sales pitch and refining it. Before you know it, I got promoted to a specialist. I forget what the role is called. And I would sell a specific software. Maybe it was like a whole software team. That's what it was. And so I started selling software. I got really good at it, and I got a pay bump. So I went from $30,000 to when I got to Dell, it was like $50,000. So that was already huge, right? But once I started seeing the bonuses coming in, I was like, man, I gotta play this game and try and make it to the top. Okay. So I get about $50,000 my first year in sales, software sales. And at this time, it's still business to consumer, or maybe like really small shops, 5 to 10 employees. And don't get me wrong, it was a good time. We had lunch and learns, and the folks would come in and, give us food and make sure we're glued to our seat and teach us about whatever software they're trying to sell, so that way we could sell it for them. Okay. And I ended up getting promoted again. This time it was to a specific solution. And I would have to basically camp out on rows of other sales reps. So the job that I had before. And while I was camped out on these rows, like I was assigned a team because there's different sales teams. And so I would be around as a subject matter expert, the SME. So anytime that they had a question about this particular solution, I would have to answer it for them, right? And it was okay. I, again, still didn't like it because now instead of selling to consumers, I had to sell to salespeople, which I think is even harder, man, because it's a relationship game. And I've always been introverted. And so for me to like have conversations with people and try and relate with people outside of business, it can be tough unless it's something that we both really enjoy talking about, like hip hop. I always loved hip hop, love TV shows, love working out, and all those things. So if it was like sports, couldn't relate. And that's what a lot of folks talk about, at least in Texas, And I would have to go to different states, Dell like headquarters, and talk to reps and sell reps and all that, and then still handle some business calls. Right, I did have a territory, and that was kind of part of it. So I ended up leaving Dell and went over to Absolute Software. And at Absolute Software, that's all I sold was that particular software. And quotas were huge. I think a lower territory was maybe $500,000 if you got a crappy territory, all the way up to 2, 3 million. Really big quotas. But I found my lane. I started learning how to talk to IT technicians, all the way up to CFOs, and really tailoring a conversation. What I thought was really cool about sales, though, is you have a whole team. It's not only you. You have your engineer, you have manager, you have a team, and it's kind of like a solo role, but you work as a team to hit a larger quota, right? But then it comes down to quarterly reviews, and if you're lacking on your quota, you better have a plan to get there to close a customer. Okay, so I had the farmer role, and then I also had just a straight sales role where I'm trying to find new business. And after a time, after 8 years, I just got burnt out. And I always told myself this stupid joke, and I don't think anybody else ever got it, but for sales, it's a quarter at a time. I felt like I'm living my life a quarter at a time, kind of like Fast and Furious and Dom Toretto, living my life a mile at a time. So similar analogy, metaphor, but totally not the same thing. But every time I think of my B2B sales world, that's what I think about. That's what comes to mind. So anyway, came to a point after almost 8 years where I was like, man, really want to work for myself. And I had my little stint with drop shipping, which I was kind of successful. But I knew that if I was going to work for myself, I had to fully commit. And that's when I found the dog training business. And I just had to commit. I had to put together the game plan, know that I can pay the bills, but also know that I might not be able to pay the bills if this doesn't work. And I think that was the biggest fear as I went from $50,000 year one to 8 years later, I'm now making 150K. Is my business really going to generate $150,000 for me to maintain my current lifestyle? That's another thing is I was scared of having to scale back my lifestyle to make this thing work. We had got so used to going from a $700 a month duplex to $2,500 house mortgage payment, being able to eat wherever we want, not have to penny pinch. That was scary because I have to feed my family. I still want to have enough money to put them into activities, my kids. I want to do the nice things. I worked too hard to get to this point to go back now because I want to be my own boss. So after a lot of digging and analyzing and looking at different business models and having a game plan, I think that's what really did it for me is I had a really good game plan And I had to switch my mind to like, what if I don't do this, to okay, I'm going to do this and here's how. I think that's the key, is knowing that you can. You don't necessarily know how you're going to get there, but you know that you're going to figure it out along the way. And vision boards help a ton. Just mapping everything out. That's what got me to get out of that corporate mindset. Knowing that I was going to work for myself, that I had a game plan, so that put a little bit of ease of mind on me. But not only that, I had the backing of my spouse at the time. And the kids were super excited about it too. So it became like a family venture, you know? So for those out there who are thinking about making the switch from the corporate world to being your own boss and becoming an entrepreneur, a lot of us go through it. I interviewed Scott Marker not too long ago. He said he got frustrated working a 9 to 5, and that's what made him shift. For me, it wasn't frustration, it was just ready to do my own thing. It's possible. I was just reading on LinkedIn the other day. Some guy quit his corporate world so he could go into the chicken wing business. We have aspirations, man. We all wanted to do things when we were kids. Just do the dang thing. Do your research, figure out how you're going to do it. Get yourself a little bit of peace of mind. Take the risk. Don't wait too long. I waited way too long. I'll be 41 this year. I should have did it when I was 30. Then I could have built my lifestyle along the way. Back then, I was scraping pennies together, so it wouldn't have mattered anyways, you know? So don't take too long. Do what you got to do. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them, at least talk through my experience. And we'll see you in the next one.